Monsieur le Président, Excellence, Monsieur Ignazio Cassis, at the outset, I would like to thank you for convening this meeting of the Security Council. And we extend our sincere thanks to Mr. Wensland for his briefing. For over a year now, the Middle East, and Palestine in particular, have been gripped by worsening violence. The brutal Israeli aggression escalates daily, spilling over into Lebanon, into Syria, and beyond. A real threat to regional stability, as well as international peace and security. We witness entire communities facing death, starvation, and outbreaks. Land desecrated, and international law rendered meaningless. Indeed, the framework our predecessors built after World War II is crumbling before our eyes, unable to stand against an Israeli power shielded from accountability and enjoying total impunity. Today, unfortunately, we live in a world where might overwhelms right. Mr. President, as stated in different reliable reports and confirmed by Mr. Wensland today in his briefing, the situation in northern Gaza is beyond catastrophic. Just yesterday, in Gaza, Israeli forces struck a building in Beit Lahya, leaving at least 60 Palestinians killed, including at least 25 children. To grasp the unprecedented level of destruction in Gaza, one only needs to look at the New York Times today. It's hard to find in Gaza a single building that remains undamaged. This destruction is not driven by military objectives, but rather reflects a policy, an Israeli policy, aimed at forcibly displacing Palestinians from their homes. As one UNRWA staff member described, people in northern Gaza are waiting for death. They are feeling abandoned, hopeless, and alone. For 3 weeks now, relentless bombing have denied even UN staff access to food and medical care. And the healthcare system in Gaza is on the brink of collapse. Kamal Adwan Hospital, who suffered several bombardments, is barely functioning, with no more blood unit, no shrewd, and no basic medical supplies. As the hospital director said, we were expecting humanitarian aid to arrive, as promised by the international community, as promised by the Security Council. What we had? Only Israeli tanks came instead. Amid this crisis, polio vaccination campaign is halted now, leaving children unprotected. Furthermore, in the south of Gaza, conditions are not even better. Worse still, the situation is rapidly deteriorating as the Israeli occupation weaponizes starvation against civilians, especially children, by denying them essential food. According to verified figures, during last year, more than 200,000 aid trucks have been barred from entering Gaza. This is the real face of an Israeli occupation that threats Palestinians as less than human beings. Mr. President, UNRWA, the lifeline of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians, faces relentless attacks by the occupying power. 231 staff members of UNRWA have been killed. 190 premises of UNRWA were bombarded by the Israeli army. And now, the operations of UNRWA are at risk of being completely halted. Just yesterday, the Israeli authorities adopted 2 bills aiming at halting UNRWA activities in the occupied Palestinian authorities territory. Algeria firmly condemns this decision and recall that UNRWA operates under a mandate from the General Assembly of the United Nations, warranting our collective defense and support. And UNRWA is irreplaceable, and UNRWA is indispensable. It must continue to serve as a lifeline for Palestinian refugees until a just and political solution is achieved, establishing an independent Palestinian state. Mr. President, enemy of transparency and accountability, the Israeli authorities' attempts now to obscure the truth after outright denying its crime. It has even dared to threat our multilateral bodies dealing with its flagrant violation of international law, of international humanitarian law, some of which these multilateral bodies regrettably have succumbed to this pressure. As global conscience increasingly reject images of death and destruction, calling for an end of the Israeli and occupier and checked actions, suppressing this image from the media, from reaching the world, have become a priority of the Israeli authorities. In fact, the occupying power endeavors relentlessly to hide its crime from scrutiny and from international justice. Foreign journalists are now barred from entering Gaza, not for 1 week, not for 1 month, but for more than 1 year. Moreover, the few Palestinian journalists who remain in northern Gaza find themselves in the crosshair of the Israeli occupation. Just last week, 6 journalists were accused of being terrorists by night to justify their killing later. This is a policy we have seen used, costing the life of already over 168 journalists in Gaza, and now tens of them in Lebanon. This cruel reality was exposed by the UN Special Rapporteur on freedom of opinion and expression, who have said, and I quote, "Targeting journalists is a strategy by Israeli authorities to obstruct the documentation of crimes," end of quote. Yet, the truth cannot be erased. Its light breaks through, clear for all to see. But, where are the voices of those who once claimed being champions of freedom of speech, of freedom of information? Why this silence in the face of such blatant transgressions? Mr. President, unfortunately, our recent deliberations have reduced Palestinian nightmare, Palestinian suffering, into a mere count of aid trucks. However, the source of the suffering of the Palestinian people is not just a humanitarian crisis. It is a political crisis rooted in decades of occupation, decades of oppression, dating back to the Nakba. In this regard, the international community failure to uphold their inalienable right are deepened the strategy, the tragedy. The core issue in the Middle East is the occupation, is the oppression. Only by addressing this root cause, we can hope for just and lasting peace in the Middle East. Let's work together to impose, yes, to impose an immediate and unconditional ceasefire in Gaza, in Lebanon, and to launch a genuine peace process that brings an end to the occupation of Arab land. I thank you.